Hello everyone and welcome to this maker workshop. So if you guys have been making paper flowers for a while, you know that the anemone is one of my favorites, and we have done so many different variations on the anemone, including one for our masterclass. However, this particular anemone, I went ahead and changed it up a bit. I've reshaped some of the petals. There's actually more petals. We have 12 in this particular one. And I've also tweaked a little bit of the technique in the center so that we get what I would call a bit more of a refined anemone. And there's some thought behind this. So I know it's you may have made a dozen other anemones in your past, but this one might actually inspire you to make it a little bit different.
And my favorite thing about it is that just that touch of blush in the center. I think it adds so much depth, and it's just so gorgeous. Look how pretty.
Yeah, so we did that in the masterclass. We added the blush, but I changed up the color too. It's a different tone of blush. All right, so for tools and materials, I am using the anemone kit, and you can use this kit or you can go ahead and just use a double-sided. I'm using the vanilla and white double-sided. You could also just use a white on white. If you want to, you can use a darker color of double-sided as well. We will be using the wires, and I'll be using these foam balls, or you can use the 12 millimeter foam balls. And then of course we have the black, and then we have our green, which is, you know what, I'm just kind of slightly mind blank, Juniper. The green is Juniper. I almost said Cypress, and I knew that was not right. And that is it for crepe paper. Then we also have a black marker. You can use, I have a Blick marker here. These we use all the time in the studio. You can also use a Sharpie. And then here is my PanPastel. I'm going to tip it over because I need to read the back. This is the red iron oxide tint. So it has, there's no glitter in it. It's a flat color, but it has a bit of a peach tone. And I think that is kind of a neat color for this group. I picked that one because I wanted to really coordinate with those oranges and the corals in a bouquet. So that's it for materials. We also have our glue. Technically, that's a material. And then for tools, I am using the pinking shears that are actually the scallops. That's an option. You don't have to. I'll show you why I like them. And then I have my smallest scissors. That's important to have these little teeny tiny scissors. We're going to really refine our centers today. I have my curling tool, some paint brushes for the PanPastel, and of course wire cutters. We always keep those on hand, the wire cutters. And I always keep these on hand just in case, you know, they just kind of sit here in my tool caddy. And that is it. All right, shall we get started? We have Anna over here. She's monitoring questions. If you want to ask a question about this particular flower, go ahead and make a capital Q. Ask your question, she'll call it out. If you have questions that don't really pertain to this particular flower, just to save time, we'll try to answer them outside of this class. But so go ahead and ask your questions. We love them. Okay, so one of the things that I noted after making 12 of these is that, okay, I cut this on the cutting machine, and I have to point out I did use a fabric mat. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, what mat do you use? And my answer was, I use whatever one's sitting there, and Megan usually uses the medium grip, but the fabric mat was sitting there. I used it and I loved it. All right, so I've cut them out already. You can see there's a few of them popping up. But what I found works really well, I'm going to move some of this stuff over, is to go ahead and add your color while it's on the mat. And I realize you guys have probably cut and peeled all of your pieces off already, so you might not have this option, and that's fine. You can do it by hand. I just feel like this is a quick way, especially if you're making a lot. I might hand this over to you to do here in a second. So I'm taking my PanPastel, and I'm getting a generous amount, and I'm just adding color right there to the base. And once I do that, I'm going to let you do this part. You'll take the bigger brush and you'll blend it up.
Teamwork.
Yes. And you might think you're getting a lot of color, but you'll notice as we work through it and get the petals on, it really does blend in and fade quite a bit.
Right, it's that trick of the light. Same thing as yesterday.
Yes. It doesn't really fade, but it does blend in really nicely. So like I said, go ahead and put a generous amount And you don't, use a different color if you prefer. I would tend to suggest using a lighter color versus a darker color unless you're, working on a darker flower.
I really like this color. I think it's got a lot of pretty depth to it. It's a nice one.
Yeah, it's just a little bit different than what we've done in the past. The other thing that you guys might notice is I was inspired to shape this set of petals a bit more like the frosted anemone flower that I've recently updated for the masterclass that's coming up. So if you haven't signed up for that masterclass, I have to tell you, it is so much fun to make frosted paper flowers, especially if you have a cutting machine where you can cut out all your frosted paper. The class is a blast. So I highly encourage you to go ahead and sign up for that. It starts in May. You can just pop over to the Craft Academy and sign up. We run it all at once, so if you don't sign up, you'll have to wait till we do it the next time.
So we do have a question. Which side are you coloring, the white side or the other
I
side?
actually have the white side up, and again, it's okay if you use the other side. It's really your personal choice. I decided this round I wanted the whiter side up. Okay, so that was nice and fast.
Yeah.
Oh, notice too, I went ahead and put the plastic on this side so that I didn't mess up my sticky. That was just kind of a little extra tip. And the other thing that I notice is that if I peel, so I want to save all this extra crepe paper, all the extra that I didn't cut, but if I peel it from the point up to the round, I get a better peel. It seems to peel better that way, and it doesn't pop off quite as much. Okay, then we have, and also here's another tip. If you work from the bottom, if you grab from the bottom and you mess up the base just a titch, then you won't get that little nick. Okay, you're gonna have 3 of the largest.
Colleen is wondering what color PanPastel are you using?
This one is the red iron oxide tint, and it is just a really pretty kind of peachy. Yeah, it's nice. It doesn't have any glitter in it, unlike the one from the Leah Griffith set, which is a little sparkly, but I think it's pretty similar other than that.
Well, this is a little bit more peach.
A little more peachy. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so I'm giving each of us 3. There's 4 different sizes of petals and 3 each. So there's 12 total. And I love these tweezers. These are like one of my favorite tools.
It's pretty satisfying watching you peel these off the mat with
Yeah.
the tweezers.
And also, if you're going to add your PanPastel on before you peel them off the mat, make sure you don't peel off your excess, because you do not want to get PanPastel on your mat. You'll pretty much ruin it. Okay, so there are all of the petals. And if you feel like it, if you are worried about the PanPastel coming off, you could actually spray it lightly, mist it with some fixative before you peel off the excess as well.
We usually use the Krylon matte spray finish for that if we're going to do it.
Yeah, and also I wanted to point out that this color of PanPastel we now have in our shop, so we've expanded to lots of extra beautiful colors. Okay, the next thing that we'll do is take this little black piece, and we'll each have a wire.
Thank you.
Now you can go ahead and use your foam ball. Easy enough. I also have these paper spun balls, so I'm going to go ahead and use one of those so I don't have to open up a package.
Okay.
Just one. Yep. And something that I showed yesterday is to secure your ball inside of your wire inside of your ball. You can go ahead and bend your tip. These are really, really stiff. If you're using the wire out of the package, it's really quite stiff. And this is an 18 gauge, just in case you're wondering. And they're stiffer than our 18 gauge wires that we sell in our shop separately. So it's really hard to get flat, but you can do that if you want to. When we work tomorrow on the final flower, we definitely want to bend them. I'll take a bit of glue, and today we are not using a hot glue gun, so that's also something different. You can see my glue is red because the pen is rusting. we lost the original pen, and that original one does not rust, but this one does. Okay, I'll place that in, and I'm hearing a question. No?
No questions.
Oh, okay. Okay, so here's something that I discovered after I distributed this pattern, and that is similar to yesterday. I don't want the paper to cover the whole ball, and I don't want to twist it at the base because it gets too bulky, and we're really refining these. I can update the pattern. I'll do that later. In the meantime, if you want to go ahead and just trim it down, and I would say I'm taking off maybe about 1/8 of an inch around, maybe a bit more off the base, off one side, so it's not quite as long. And I'll stretch that out a bit, and I'll show you how far down I really prefer this. I'll add some glue to my ball. I find this works really well. Add glue to the ball and then just use my finger and pad the glue around. So one of the things to refine this particular anemone, because we are adding some extra detail, is that I don't want the whole ball to be sticking out of the flower. So we're actually using about a half of a ball. So that's why we don't really want as much crepe paper.
Keep that bulk down.
Yeah, so keep the bulk down. So I'm placing, and then I'm just patting it down and making it nice and smooth.
And don't fold yours over on accident.
Now here's something that I'll point out, Emily, just in case. You will want to make sure that half of your ball is covered with black crepe paper.
Okay, so maybe I got too much cut off on this
Yeah,
side.
you might have. You might want to pull it off and try it again, or
color it in with a little
you
black.
could color it in. You could color it in with a marker. That's actually a really safe thing, or a way to make it safe. Here, I'll just do this for fun. You could always go in and color it in. I love the crepe paper. I mean, you can just use a marker on the ball rather than covering it with crepe paper. That's okay too.
The crepe paper has such a nice texture.
It does, and it's nice to see that you know, everything's crepe on this flower. But this is an option.
This will be our secret.
Yeah, and it really won't show. You just don't want that white peeking out. So I'm just doing this for fun. I don't need to do this, but yeah, you could do that as well. So then I'm going to take my little strip and my pinking shears first. We'll go ahead and trim the top of that. And I'm cutting it so that the scallop, it rounds up towards the top, and I'll show you a close-up here. So you can see the scallop is going this direction rather than the other direction.
And you didn't stretch this at all?
Right? I'm not stretching it at all. Ever.
Okay.
All right, I'm putting my pen back in just because we don't want the glue to dry. Then I'm taking my very tiny scissors, and this is where I want you guys to really practice clipping these things as tiny as, oh wait, sorry, I forgot a step. Pause. You're okay. Grab your marker. And I'm going to use the brush side of the marker and just add a bit of black just to the tip. And I'm not going down very far with my marker.
Kind of just right past where that scallop ends.
And I'm kind of patting it down rather than doing a straight line across because I want it to be uneven.
And this way it gets on both sides a little bit.
It does, and we'll turn it over and touch up the other side just in case you have some white spots. You know, when I made the first flower for this set, I used the black instead of this white, and it just looked too heavy. So you can see I have some white spots. I'm going to go overhead and touch those up. So the black looked too heavy, and I liked having that white break between the center and then the very tiny tips of these stamen. So this is something we do all the time. There's nothing different with this step. And there's nothing different with this one, except I really want you guys to go in and practice following the grain line and cutting it as small as you possibly can.
You're definitely the fringing queen.
I am not the fringe ninja though. That would be Megan.
Yeah, she is a fringe ninja.
And I'm cutting slowly because I really want to make each little fringe almost, I would say, about a blade wide, about as thin as you possibly can.
And you're leaving about, what, a quarter of an inch at the bottom?
Yeah, just a quarter of an inch so it doesn't fall apart.
Just a little bit.
And the other thing about this is our strip is actually longer than we'll need because we are only going to wrap it one time. So you might even want to kind of measure and trim. I do believe I forgot to change that on the pattern. This is where I wish I had some hot glue because I like hot gluing the balls on, but we didn't plug it in today. So once you have about a half of it trimmed, you can measure and make sure you're not overcutting. That way, well, it's still good practice. If you cut the whole thing, it's good practice.
Yeah, you can use your second
I'll cut
half.
to there. Well, it's not even a half. See, I'm only cutting off the end.
You can use your second half that you got better at.
That's true. So we do not stretch it as we put it on. So slowly and patiently. Then we are going to take our curling tool and add just a bit of shape. And since these are so tiny and fragile, be very, very delicate with your curling tool. Okay, I'm gonna make sure this is enough. So I'm wrapping it right at the center of the ball. Yes, that's plenty. We might even end up trimming a bit at the end, as you'll see. Okay, curling tool. Then I'm very gently rolling. See how I'm rolling my finger? I'm pushing the paper over the curling tool. So I'm not pulling it. I feel like when you pull it, that's when you might rip it. But if you just push the paper over the curling tool with your thumb, you can get the curl without tearing the paper. And you don't need a lot of curl, just a bit.
Make these little eyelashes.
They do. I call them eyelashes. I mean, we could, maybe for a costume that we do, we can do a paper
Crepe
flower.
Paper eyelashes.
A paper flower costume with crepe paper eyelashes. Okay, now we're going to glue this onto the center, and we'll want to glue it so that the eyelashes curl into the ball. So, you know, you'll want to make it
And
look
you're gluing
like
it.
that.
Okay, so you're starting about halfway up the ball, you said?
halfway up the ball. This is not glued yet. It got a bit soft on me. Probably too much glue. So I have to be really careful when I do this. Okay, so I will place right here at the halfway mark. I'll just gently place a line of glue, and I'll do a bit at a time. I don't want to do the whole thing. And just lay that on there. Kind of pat it down as you rotate it. I guess you could go ahead and put the glue all the way around. That might be a little less awkward because you really don't want to get glue up on to the top of your ball.
On your fringes.
Right. And when your fringes meet, we will not be overlapping. We'll actually cut it off. Make sure there's not a gap between them, but we will cut it off.
Perfect. Mine were perfectly in the center.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful? All right, so now I'm going to just set this aside and let it dry. Maybe we need a vase without holes on the side. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. And we'll bring over our crepe paper petals.
So we have a question from Denise. Which color is facing out?
On the petals, on the crepe paper, the
Crepe
top,
paper.
yeah, the top of the petal where I put the pastel is the white, and then the vanilla is on the back side. And it's perfectly okay to do it the other way. All right, I'm lining my petals up in size. I always feel like it works better to have everything sort of organized.
Yeah, you don't want to get these confused.
Yeah. And you'll notice that the petals there's a bit more organic shape to the petals, a bit more jig and jag.
I like these. These ones have like quite a bit of wobble.
Yeah, they do. They do.
It makes an organic feeling.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So these ones are the medium sized, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4.
That is correct. All right, so I'm going to start curling them. One of the things you'll note on all petals, you will always with PanPastel up, you'll always roll the tip down just a bit on every single petal. All right, so then all of the other top curls, we want to vary them.
Okay.
So oftentimes I'll go one side, so I'll do the right side, and then on this one, I'll do the left side, and then on the third one, I might go really crazy and curl it the other direction. So it tips up like this.
So the question was actually on the fringe, which color is facing
Oh,
out?
you know, honestly, it doesn't matter. I think the white's facing out on mine. It doesn't, I don't know that I would notice it.
Yeah, it's very
the white's,
subtle.
Yeah, it's very, very subtle, especially when you're at that level. So it's okay to do either way. Same thing with this set. Always make sure the tip has a down curl, and then we'll just vary. We'll really want to vary. The cutting machine seemed to put a little nick right there on that petal, so I'll just trim it off.
Easy enough.
Easy enough. Yes. I love when the flowers are finished, I love having this variation. You can see how the petals just go all the different directions.
Mm-hmm. It gives it that beautiful organic feeling.
Mm-hmm. Is this the first anemone you've made? Oh, you made the
No,
master.
I made the masterclass.
Masterclass one,
Yes.
that's right.
And I think I've made one before.
This one's much smaller than the masterclass anemone.
Mm-hmm.
They do come in all different sizes, but I'm really loving the delicate, tiny versions. So, again, it is one of my favorite flowers. I just love them.
I know we've had a lot of we've been doing a lot of white flowers lately, but
We have. You can make anemones in the burgundies. You can make them in the red, the coral, all the double-sided colors. You can actually use this flower. In fact, I think our packaging has anemone, although that's version 1, which we are so much more refined now. So if you ever feel bad about your flowers not being as refined as you want, go look at some of our first ones. You'll feel really good about yourself. All right. I'm not adding any stretch. On these petals, it's all about the curl. Okay, everything's done. And I'm hoping this is dried. Not quite. I might need to get some hot glue. It's just kind of bouncing around.
So we do have another question on the color. Which side of the crepe is facing out? I believe you said it's the white.
Correct.
Correct. But either side works.
Either side
just
works
as well.
just fine. I'm looking for a hot glue gun.
there should be one in that drawer right there.
Actually, there's not. There, we actually cleaned the office the other day, cleaned the video studio. So, okay, I'm just gonna go for it. By the time I get my stem put on, we'll be good to go. So I'll start with the smallest petal, and we're going to do the same thing we always do. Add just a bit of glue to the tip, except this time we're not using hot glue. We're using, and I'll place it. Actually, I want to do it this way. I'm going to look at the face of my flower, and I'm going to place it right on the edge. And since my ball's a little wobbly, and you'll see that it's pointing upward. Once we're done, because we'll want to make sure and cover all the edge here, but you can see how I placed it right on the edge of my fringe.
Facing up.
Facing up. And we'll make a nice little triangle. Is Anna bringing me a hot glue gun? Thank you, Anna. So I'm not going all the way down to my wire here. I'm actually just placing it on the edge. And as I move my petals down, we'll move them down quite a bit. Thanks so much. We're gonna get this ball put on. This is the only place I would use the hot glue for this flower, is just to put the ball onto the stem.
And you said do a little triangle.
Yeah, so you'll place your petals so that they have a fairly even triangle.
Like a little bunny.
Yes.
And then give the bunny a beard.
And always remember that you're putting the glue on the PanPastel side, and not the white PanPastel side, or whichever side you put the PanPastel on. I'm having to be really gentle just to make sure my head doesn't pop up, but I'll fix it in a second. So you can see what's going on here. Yep. And again, make sure that you place them fairly evenly so the petals, you know, you don't want one high and one low. Place them evenly around.
So just to confirm, the side with the PanPastel is facing towards the ball.
Whoops, I don't want hot glue. What am I doing?
Yes, yes.
See, that's the problem with it sitting there.
You'll want that PanPastel coming out right
Yeah.
here. So you'll see it right here at the bottom.
PanPastel always faces up. So you put the glue on the PanPastel side. Okay, now the second round, I'm placing it, you can go either right side or left side, whatever you prefer, whatever way you work. And I'm placing it about halfway overlap.
Is that too little?
Yep, I would do a bit more because we have 4 sets of petals.
Does that look about right?
That looks pretty good. Yep. And see, be generous.
Get rid of the hot glue gun.
Be generous with your glue, but not so much that you make your flower soggy. Does that make sense?
And I'm doing the same technique we did yesterday, and I just have my glue sitting here in a little puddle instead of squeezing
And
it
that
out
is a
every
really
time.
great idea too, especially if you have a lot of flowers to make. You can pop through them pretty quickly this way. And here's my third set, and I'll show it to you guys. I'm using my thumb to press down the center just so that the ball doesn't fall off. This should be hot here in a second. All right, so here is the second set of petals. Let's see, there we go. And you can see how the variation really does play in at this point. Okay, let's see if I have any hot glue. Nope, not yet. It takes a minute.
Even with those extra hot ones.
Yeah, it'll be here in a sec.
All right.
And as I'm placing the second set of petals, I am moving them closer to the wire.
Since they're a little bigger.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm ready for my next set.
Okay, the next set, you do the same thing. I'm going to repair my little oversaturated, too much glue, soggy ball problem by using some hot glue. All right. Whew, I feel better already.
Yay. A little more secure.
But I'm going to take this away so I don't continue to use it.
Now you got your head securely attached.
Yeah, my head's on straight.
So are we putting these continuing to the right or the left, whichever one?
Yeah, just continue the same rotation.
Okay.
Always go the same rotation, no matter which, if you go left or right, always go the same rotation. And in this case, I'm placing it a little nudged to the other 2 petals, so there's a slight gap here. So you're not placing it directly in the middle.
Okay.
It's a bit nudged, not a lot, just a
this?
bit. Same thing, always put your glue on the top. And slightly nudge it. And then here's my third set. I can see I have 2 sets here. I'm gonna reshape this petal real quick just to give it a bit more. You can always do that. You can always go in as you're working if you don't like the way a petal's shaped and kind of adjust it. So you can see here are the next 4. This one's looking a bit too high, so I'll pull that and move it down a bit. That's why I love this glue.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a while, but I finally am off of the hot glue pretty much all the time now, except some flowers definitely need it. And then the last set of 3, you'll place them in that final gap and really just sort of eyeball where they need to go to make the most sense.
This one feels so easy compared to yesterday's.
Right? 12 petals rather than 92. But, you know, it was worth it.
It was worth it.
Such a beautiful flower. So by now, my point is all the way to the wire of my final petal.
Mine looks so much less even than yours.
Does it? One thing you might do, I'll show you here in a second. But this one you can see is a little less even. This is a little more free form.
I'll just scoot my petals.
You can scooch them around, exactly. So here's my final set right here. And again, I love the variation. Here's the one from the bouquet that we've already done.
Here's my wonky one.
There's nothing wonky about it. It's actually perfect. Okay, so the final thing we'll do for the flower itself is go ahead and put your finger inside and sort of brush out your little stamen away from the center. And I like to do that after I've put all my petals on. Again, you can go back and adjust if you need to, rotate a bit. These flowers are not perfectly symmetrical in nature. There is some variation in sizes of petals, and so that's why I loved having such a variation in the shape and also the way we curl them.
I love that.
So the last thing we'll do to finish this flower is our stem wraps. So I'll cut some of this. And I'm sure you all have already done, have already made your leaves. So this is the final leaf. If you wanted to, you could make a leaf and put it right at the base, which is really where the leaves grow. I would say, I wouldn't do 4, but you could do 2 or 3 at the base, and then just stem wrap that right into the base. You can do that, that's an option. We also have, this is the more complicated leaf for the anemone. We also have a simplified version that I created. I have not made that yet, which I've been dying to. I've just been really busy. So I will be making those, so you guys will see them at some point. But it's a little less detail, but more so than our original or older versions. I'm going to give you some crepe paper.
Thank you.
Probably don't need that much.
Oops.
It's amazing how little crepe paper you need to stem wrap. Now, something that I like to do, I did it on this flower, is I actually went up a little bit over the flower, which is hard to do. If you can't do it, that's all right. You might want to do it on your second round.
Just get a little bit wobbly at the top like I was having yesterday.
Yeah, I would go ahead and do the stem first and then go back and see if you can get a bit up towards the base of the flower. These flowers don't have sepals. A lot of flowers don't. They just go straight from the petal onto the stem without any extra green bits. I like sepals. It's a great way to cover up some of your, I don't know, maybe less than perfection on the back side, but in this case, there's no hiding.
Yeah. That's why you put that stem wrap up there just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, just a bit. As I've been doing so many flowers this last week, I've noticed my technique of stem wrapping's gotten really good. I just do just a tiny bit of glue down the stem, and then as I roll, I stretch it 100% completely. There's no more stretch left by the time it lands on that wire. And that makes a very nice, beautiful, smooth stem.
So we have a request for the video team. Can we see the center fringe close up, please?
Yes. Let me wrap this, and then I want to get my fingers off the glue, and I'll bring a couple of them in for you guys and then turn it around. Okay, then I'll just tear it off. I might go up and kind of work on that just a bit, but I wanted to show you guys the fringe. You can see on this one, I actually got the fringe down the ball a bit more, so it looks shorter, and that's okay too. Or if you cut a bit more off the end with your pinking shears. So this one's a bit longer, this one's a bit shorter.
Yeah, mine's pretty long on here.
Yeah. I like the short look actually, either way. Okay, now I will go back and add a bit more to the base. And then once we're done with this, we are done with this flower.
Nice.
So we have a really great question here from Marie. Is white important for making the final bouquet? I've already made them in an old pattern in white and I would like to make another color this time.
I don't think so. Pick a color that you think is pleasing to your eye. With the other flowers that you made, the white is not important. Some of when I was working on the bouquets, we have 2 videos actually. One, we make 2 smaller bouquets and Emily is working with me, and we both have a bit different color palette. Not a lot, but we have some variation. So one thing that I talk about when you're working with flowers in a bouquet is that white actually pops out towards you and dark colors recede. So when you're doing the bouquet, just remember that. If you're using a darker color and you want that flower to be a bit more predominant, you might want to bring it out further in your bouquet.
Well, and we have, what is it? We have the double daffodil has that really creamy
white
color.
But we pulled it in deep in the bouquet because it's not something, we talk about that a bit. But no, do whatever color you want. Okay, I think this looks pretty good. I'm being a little nitpicky here, trying to get this perfect. All right, and there we go. There are our flowers, and we'll add these into our bouquet. I love these flowers. They're great for weddings. They're the right size for boutonnieres, especially these smaller versions. I think if you are one who likes to make anemones, you are going to love this version. For sure. I think it's a nice little upgrade.
I agree. I think they look beautiful and they felt so fast to make.
Compared to yesterday.
So I think these are great.
That's why I did the hardest one first. And now this one. And then tomorrow, or if you're watching the replay, you'll be able to jump right over to that video. And that will be the double daffodil, which is really simple.
I think it looks so good.
It's a very simple flower. And we will be using a hot glue tomorrow because
all right.
That's what works best.
So plug them in before he show up at 11.
Exactly, or else you'll be sitting here like I have. All right, you guys, any more questions, Anna?
No.
Okay.
I think you did a great job describing what you were doing.
Good.
Well, thank you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Bye-bye.